do it, the miracle happens.
Yeah, it says send to a third party.
Oh, that's good. That's very good. Do it, the miracle happens. There you go. Make sure I can't hear myself. There we go. Wow. So it's very exciting because we are getting ready for Pesach. I mean, this is it, isn't it? The moment is coming. So let's start off with our tefillah. Let me find it first. Sorry. Here we go. And share. There we go. Right. Okay, so I want to dedicate the learning for Refuah Shalema to Hanania David ben Keren Ruth and to Mordechai ben Mashalea, and also for the welfare and release of all the hostages. Amen. Okay. ריבון עולמים ואדוני אדונים, אף הרחמן והסליחות, מודים אנחנו לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, בקידה בשטח הוויה, שקרבתנו לתורתך ולעבודתך עבודת הקודש. ונתת לנו חלק בסודות תורתך הקדושה, מה אנו ומחיינו, אשר עשית עמנו חסד גדול כזה. על כן אנחנו מפילים תחנוננו לפניך, שתמחול ותסלח לכל חטאותינו ועוונותינו, ואל יהיו עוונותינו מבדילים בינינו לבינך, וכן יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, שתכונן את לבבינו ליראתך ולבבך, ותקשיב אוזניך לדברינו אלה, ותפתח לבבינו הערל בסודות תורתך, ויהיה לימודנו זה נחת רוח, לפני כיסא כבודך קרח ניחוח, ותציל עלינו אור מקור נשמתנו בכל בחינתנו, שיתנוצצו ניצוצות עבודך הקדושים, אשר על ידם גלית דבריך אלה בעולם, וזכותם וזכות אבותם, וזכות תורתם ותמימותם וקדושתם, יעמוד לנו, לבל נכשל בדברים אלו. ובזכותם תראה עינינו במה שאנו לומדים, כמאמרים זמירות ישראל, גל עיני והביטה נפלאות מתורתך, כי אדוני תן חוכמה מפיו דעת ותבונה, יהיו לראות צונים רפי, והגון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגורלי. אמן, כן יהי רצון.
Amen.
Okay, now then. So what we need to do now is share my screen. And the first thing we want to do is actually look at Parashat haChodesh. Share screen. Where is it? I suppose, yeah, oh, I see. I'll get it right. I'll get it right one day, these things. Oh, here we go. That's what I'm looking for. Now, try again. Share. There we go. Right. Okay. Right, here we go. Oh, here comes Rochelle. Lovely. ויאמר השם אל משה ואל אהרון בארץ מצרים לאמור. And God spoke to Moses and to Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, haChodesh hazeh lachem rosh chodeshim. This month is for you the first of the months. Rishon hu lachem. It is the first for you, l'chodshei hashana, of the months of the year. This is this very famous, Rashi, okay? At the beginning of Bereshit, when he asks this very famous question, and he says, why does the Torah begin at Bereshit? It should begin at haChodesh hazeh lechem rosh chodeshim, because this is the first mitzvah that is actually given. Okay, so it's a very important mitzvah that this month should be for you the first of the months. It's, the first of the month. It is the first for you of the months of the year. Okay, so we're going to first concentrate just on this first idea, okay, about this particular mitzvah. And then if we've got time, we'll go and look at what the rest of this passage says. All right, so we'll start off with that because it's clearly so important that Rashi said it was from here, this moment, that the whole of the Torah should begin. Okay, so we're going to look at that first. So I have a piece here. A moment. Here it is. No, it isn't. Here. This is actually from printed in my Haggadah, which is a very lovely Haggadah, and unfortunately it's out of print. Otherwise, I'd recommend it to everybody. Where somebody put together the explanations of Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag, together with the text of the Haggadah. And so it's really very special. Now then, oh, you can't see anything yet, sorry. There we are. Okay. haChodesh hazeh lachem rosh chodeshim. This month should be for you the beginning of the month. Inyan chidush nikra davar she'asecha lo machayev liot kach v'oseh kach. The issue of something new implies something which one's mind does not necessarily think it should be like that, but nevertheless, a person makes something like that. Davar ze nikra chidush. That's, something new, something like invent something. All right? Or something which is a new interpretation. That's also called a chidush, isn't it? Like, how do we interpret? Like, somebody gets new insights, okay, into the Torah. He calls it chidushei haTorah, okay? Im ken, yesh lishol, ma'u kan hachidush. What's this new element here that's coming in here? Ad shnikra rosh hachidushim, okay? That he calls it the first of the new elements, the first of the new understandings, the first of the new ways of looking at something, okay? And in the way of our work, in the way of coming to serve God lishma, for his own sake, okay? In other words, not in order to get a reward. Even though a person is born with his own selfish love, and with his will to receive himself alone. And this comes from the basis of our creation, because God wants to give goodness to the created beings, okay? And therefore, because he wants to give goodness to all created beings, he therefore had to create within the created being the will to receive all the goodness. Because otherwise, how is he going to give it if we don't actually want it? I mean, because the purpose of creation is not just that we should receive what God wants to give us, but we should enjoy it. Because the other way that the purpose of creation is talked about is that he wants us to give pleasure to the created beings. And clearly, we can't have pleasure if we don't have a desire to receive pleasure. If you're given something that you don't actually want, okay, it's just a bother, all right? So we have our basic nature actually comes from our will to receive, which comes from the basis of creation, okay? So even though, he says, a person is born, that's every person, is born with our own will to receive for ourselves alone, our own, if you like, self-directed love, and we only like to work when we can see what's in it for ourselves, okay? And all this comes from our basic nature, which comes from God's purpose in creation, nevertheless, a person needs ultimately to learn how to do what is the opposite of his nature. Okay? Now, why is that? The reason is because there is a spiritual law that spiritual entities become one and become close to each other when they have the same desire, and they separate when they have opposite desires. And this is called affinity of form or opposition of form. So what is God actually asking us to do? What do we actually have to do? We have to take what's our basic nature, our will to receive, and change its direction. Okay? Change its direction from only wanting to receive for myself to wanting to receive for the sake of giving to God or to my fellow man, or simply letting go of my will to receive and saying, okay, I'm just going to be giving. Okay, either will work. All right? So this is the chidush. This is what's new. All right? So we now need to transform our will to receive for ourselves alone into the will to give. And in the language of the sages, the more traditional language of the sages, you'd say to let go of our yetzer hara, our evil inclination, and only work with our good inclination. But I actually prefer Rabbi Ashlag's explanations because they're more descriptive and they actually tell you what exactly we need to deal with. שכל עבודתו צריכה להיות רק לתועלת השם. That our work always needs to be for the sake of God. Now, the sake of God can mean also for the sake of our fellow human beings. Because when we're giving, okay, we can either give in faith to God or we can give to our fellow human being. Either way works, okay? Because why? Because giving brings us into affinity of form with the Creator. So giving to God or giving to our fellow human being is actually equivalent. And we need to leave off our natural inclination to work only for ourselves alone. And this whole idea that there even is such a possibility as working for the sake of the other or working without demanding a reward for it. Zo chidush gadol. This is a tremendously new idea. And I have to say that it doesn't matter how many times one's heard it before, or it's not an intellectual newness, I would say, because to understand the basis of it isn't difficult. All right? But what is difficult is when you're actually faced with that moment-to-moment decision, all right, that your desire to give to God or give to one's fellow human being immediately comes up against our basic nature. And in that moment, one's body, one's ego wants to say, well, what's that about? What for? And it starts asking all these tremendously difficult questions like, why should I? And stuff like that. Okay. And so what I'm saying is, it's not a chidush. It's not a new idea from the perspective of we've never heard of it before intellectually. We have, but in the actual moment, it feels like something revolutionary. To the set ad kedei kach amru Chazal, and this is so revolutionary to the extent that the sages said, "Ilmaleh haChodesh Baruch Hu ozro, eino yocholo." If it weren't for the fact that the Holy Blessed One helps him, he would not be able to deal with it. He would not be able to deal with this moment of letting go of one's will to receive, okay, and bringing about the will to give. והנה כשעם ישראל היו משועבדים לפרעה ומצרים, זהו מצד הטבע. Now, when the people of Israel were enslaved to Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, okay, that is that we are enslaved to our own inner Pharaoh, okay, because our Pharaoh is is like the archetype of the will to see for oneself alone, okay, the king of Egypt. What does that mean? Okay, so the Pharaoh, the characterizes the Pharaoh in different ways, all right? If you were to take the letters of the word Pharaoh, Pei, Resh, Ayin, Hey, okay, and turn them around, you get Oref, the neck, okay? And the king of Mitzrayim, the king of the narrow consciousness, Mitzrayim has got that narrow aspect within it, all right? And the Pharaoh is in fact, gives you the idea that one can do the work for the sake of giving, that it's not that difficult, all right? That we can give to our fellow unconditionally without taking our own, putting the other guy first, or we can give to God in faith, okay, and mean it, all right? And we get that idea that we can, but it's the blockage at the neck, the Pharaoh, who basically answers the idea. And he says, who is God that I should listen to his voice? And it's at the neck level, all right? The blockage is between the head and the body. So the Pharaoh will allow us to think positive thoughts, all right? But he won't allow us to carry them through. So that's the Pharaoh, okay? So when the people of Israel were enslaved to the Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and this is mitzad hateva, so our enslavement to our present day inner king of Egypt, the Pharaoh, is a natural enslavement in the sense because we are naturally enslaved to our will to receive for ourselves alone. How are we going to get out of it? ולצאת משעבוד זה, and in order to get out of this servitude, כתוב, אנוכי השם אלוקיך, אשר הוצאתיך מארץ מצרים. I am the Lord your God, who brings you out from the land of Egypt. All right? In fact, the reality is that the more we are aware of where we need to get to, okay, that we need to work for the sake of God and not for our own sake, the more awareness we bring to it, in fact, very often, the harder it gets. Until we say to God, if you don't deliver me from this or don't deliver us from this, I'm never going to be able to get out of it. All right? And then it says, Anochi Hashem Lokecha, I am the Lord your God who brought you out from the land of Egypt. V'zeu nikar Rosh haChodesh. Okay, and this is called the first of the months, all right? But it's also Rosh Hatchala v'Shoresh l'kol chidushim. It's also the beginning and root of of this new idea, okay, which is always new to us, all right? Whenever we have that choice. Kamosh Amur Chazal, as the sages of blessed memory said, B'kol yom yu be'einecha kachadashim. Let every single day be in your eyes like new. Hainu b'kol yom tzrichim lageh lidei chidush. That is, every day we need to again reach the aspect of new. Okay? Kamosh Katuv, Asher anochi metzavcha hayom, as I command you this day. Now I did see that's a couple of things in the chat. Dvorah says, let me just see, let's read all this. So hypothetically speaking, let's say I want to give without even thinking of what I could get back in return. How do I give to the Creator? That's okay. I know how to give to another human, but how to the Creator? Is giving to another person one way of giving to God? Or is there some other way to give to God? Is abiding keeping in its form of giving to God unconditionally? In other words, what does it mean to give to Hashem? Wow, that's tremendous questions. Okay, so let's go through this slowly. All right? So everybody wants to look at it, it's in the chat. Okay, so Dvorah asked very good questions, all right? Let's say I want to give without even thinking of what I could get back in return. Okay, yes, that is being in affinity of form with the Creator. And that in itself is equivalent to giving to God, because the sages asked a question, and the question is based on the verse. It's in Deuteronomy, it's in Devorim, that our purpose is to keep the mitzvot, to love God and serve Him, and to unite with Him. Ledovkobo, okay, is what is written there. And they ask a question. They said, how can we be one with God? He's a flaming fire. And they answered, to be one with His qualities. Just as God feeds us and clothes us and gives us all we need unconditionally, we also need to feed and help other people and give them unconditionally. And your question is, if I'm giving to another human being, how does that help God? All right. And the answer is like this. God's purpose in creation is to give goodness to the created beings. Okay. Now, so long as we are actually not in affinity of form with the Creator, so long as we're just focused on our own will to receive for ourselves alone, then the answer is He cannot actually fulfill His creation, not fulfill His purpose, not because He doesn't want to or He can't in that sense, but simply because if we're not in affinity of form, then it's like He's trying to give to us, but we're putting up a block from our side. All right? It's like we've got our backs turned. We're facing the wrong direction. In order for the light to flow, there has to be some affinity of form between the goodness of God and the vessel, which is us, to receive it. Okay? So what's actually happening is if you give unconditionally to another fellow human being with all your heart, okay, what are you actually doing is you're turning your vessel round to God, okay, and then that light can flow through you to all humanity. All right, so what you're actually doing is you're actually helping God fulfill His purpose of creation. Do you see? All right. So, yes, when you are giving to another person, you are also giving to the Creator. Dvorah goes on to write, I know how to give to another human, but how to the Creator? I think what you're hitting on here is something really important. Okay. Something that you're hitting on here is something that's really important, which is that it's actually harder in some respects to give to God because God is, we can't sense or feel or touch or see, okay, the Creator. And so it's very much more abstract. And most of us find it more difficult to give to another human being. The other person's there, okay, and you open your heart and you can give. And the other thing is also that when you give to the other human being, there's feedback. All right. Often, you get the feedback whether you're doing it, whether it's you get feedback from other people. It's easier in that sense to give feedback. But when we give to God. But when we give to God, we can think that we're doing it. We might not be doing it. sometimes, in my view, it's harder to do it in some respects because God is, like I say, is not an aspect of we can see or feel or anything. So yeah. Now, the way we give to God is by doing the Torah mitzvot with love and praising God and thanking God and blessing God for all that he does. And that's not actually because God needs us to give to him, that God doesn't lack anything. We don't do Torah and mitzvot in order to give something to God, because God is completely whole and doesn't need anything at all. He doesn't need our mitzvot. The people who needs our mitzvot is ourselves, okay? Because we need to transform our will to receive for ourselves alone into the way of giving. All right. And there's basically two categories. One is between ourselves and our fellow human being, and other is between ourselves and God. And ideally, we should try to work on both fronts. Okay. All right. Because the issue is there's lots of, for example, what's it called? Human right. I don't know, like just looking after other humans. All right. But that's not the goal. It's love your neighbor as yourself, for I am the Lord your God. We need to come also to the love of God. Just loving other people, all right, and giving our lives for other people is a step towards the love of God. But the ultimate purpose that God has in creation, which is to give pleasure to the created beings, is to give knowledge of himself, all right? And that knowledge of himself, therefore, needs that we do develop a relationship with the Creator. So, do you see what I'm saying? Okay. Ah, right, there you are. Yes, Dvorah, do you want to unmute yourself and tell me if that was okay?
I mean, it is okay, but I'm like comparing it in my mind a little bit to being a parent. If I see that someone has done something nice for one of my children,
Mm-hmm.
that inside me feels so good
Mm-hmm.
that my child received something, someone's love. But God doesn't need anything from us. So when I give to, in my mind, to God, I'm really giving to myself because
Well,
God's desire is to give to us.
right. Okay. So when we are giving to God and we're becoming in affinitive form, assuming that our giving is unconditional, okay, we're not giving to God in order to get a place in the Garden of Eden or to get something out of God. But when we're giving to God unconditionally, all right, then what we're actually doing is we're becoming in affinitive form with him. And what we said when we're coming in affinitive form with him is that the light of God, the goodness of God, can then flow through us to all humanity. Okay? Hafoch ratzon v'tkabel tzinor. The sages said if you take your own desire for yourself alone, you transform it for the desire of giving, then that flow of light can then flow to all. You become a channel through which God can give all his goodness to humanity, which is what he wants to do.
Yeah, so it's not actually giving to God as though God were an object.
Right.
It's more that in the action of giving, no matter
Yeah, keep going.
that giving is being transferred back into the world.
Yes.
It's not actually a thing
No.
that's being given. It's really like a loving energy.
Yes. It's a
sort of.
quality. Yes. Yes. So what the Torah actually does, the Torah teaches us with the mitzvot, it gives us different ways that we can work. And I think it's very individual because each one of us has our own personality. Each one of us has our own difficulties and our own strengths. Okay. Things that we're better at, things that we're not so good at. So each one of us can uniquely find the way to give either to God or to another human being, but the effect is the same. We're transforming a closed, finite, small vessel, which is hardly able to receive any light at all, to an infinite channel, which is therefore available to God to use to pass all his goodness through us to all humanity, to all human beings, to all creation, which is his purpose of creation. He wants to give goodness to all created beings. So what are we simply doing? We are actually allowing or making possible the purpose of creation to come about.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, I guess I'm always trying to get the practical means of implementation.
Right.
What we're learning. So maybe a very mini example could be we eat a Shabbos meal and we wash and we make a bracha. And before we put the food in our mouth, we think for a moment and say Lekavod Shabbos Kodesh.
Right. Absolutely.
That I'm not just eating because I'm hungry and I'm not just eating because it's Shabbos, but it's for the whole. The eating is I'm receiving for the sake of giving.
Yes, I think that mindfulness is something that is so present in Judaism when we work the way of Rabbi Ashlag. It really is having that mindfulness. It's not just saying a blessing, blah, 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 tick, said the blessing. Okay, no, it's like really being present and meaning that blessing, meaning that with putting our love, putting our connection, putting our desire to be giving to God into those words. Okay. Beautiful.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for going down that path with me.
It was a good path. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
All right. אבל ההתחלה הראשונה היא ביציאת מצרים, כמו שכל דבר צריך הכנה. כמו כן, גם ליציאת מצרים היה צריך להיות הכנה. But the first beginning of the coming out of Egypt was that everything needs preparation. Likewise, in order to get out of Egypt, they also needed to have preparation. והכנה הייתה בזה שהגיעו למ"ט שערי טומאה. And the preparation was that they actually had to reach the 49 gates of uncleanness. עד שנגלה עליהם מלך מלכי המלכים וגאלם, until the supreme King of Kings, the Holy Blessed One, revealed himself to them and redeemed them. כמו שאומר הארי הקדוש, and this is what the Holy Ari teaches us. So why did they need to get to the 49th level of uncleanness? What's the point of that? Okay, because the issue is that these are untransformed vessels, untransformed levels of the will to receive for oneself alone. But on transformation, okay, they become channels for the light. So God wanted them to come out of Egypt b'chush gadol, with great substance, meaning with the desire to come to him. All right. When a person realizes he's got a problem, all right, then he wants to find the answer to that problem. Okay, but if he thinks everything is fine just the way it is, he's got no incentive to move or to change. All right? So in a sense, the more we feel the exile that we're in from God, the greater we value the redemption. All right? So the children of Israel had to go down to that 49th level of uncleanness in order to realize and be grateful for and thank God for the actual light of redemption. All right. If we feel everything's fine just the way it is, okay, then there's no desire to get out. So what is the 49th level of uncleanness? That 49th level of disconnection, all right, in order to desire the connection with God. ולהגיע למדרגה הזו, לראות את המצב האמיתי שבו נמצאים, צריכים הרבה הגיעה בתורה ועבודה, לראות את האמת, איך שמשובדים לפרעה. And in actual fact, and this is true, in order to get to such a level of awareness that a person is able to see their true state in which they're in order to be able to give work in Torah and serve God, and to be able to see the truth, how we are actually enslaved to Pharaoh. What that means is that so long as I think I'm okay, I don't have the incentive, all right? But the more I try and the more I see I can't get out on my own, the more I try to give unconditionally, either to God or to my fellow man, and the more I see I can't, okay, that's the vessel, all right? That's the way to actually create the vessel. ולפי ערך הכלי, היינו החיסרון, כן נמדדת מידת גודלו של מילוי החיסרון. All right? So the more we try, the more we see how I am serving my own Pharaoh. And according to the greatness of the vessel, the lack, so we measure the great measure of the fulfillment of that lack. זאת אומרת, שיעור שמחת הגאולה, תלוי במידת שיעור הייסורים של הגלות. So the measure of joy of our redemption is completely dependent on the measure of the suffering of the exile. אבל, and this is really important what he says, אבל אי אפשר להגיע לידי הגשת הגלות בלי מעשים של תורה ועבודה ותפילה. You can't actually get to that feeling of exile. And he's talking about now, he's not talking about history, all right? You can't actually get to that feeling of exile without actually doing deeds of Torah and service and prayer. You've got to try to do the stuff, try to do the work, all right? And then you see where your motives really are, okay? And you see that there's that Pharaoh blocking us. We see the narrowness of our Mitzrayim. We begin to see how actually we are separated from the Creator. We see how we do tend to serve our own wills to receive for ourselves alone. And we find how hard it is to actually be able to give anything unconditionally without some sneaky little thought about how I'm going to gain something from this creeping in, okay? And the more we try, the more we see it, the more we see it, the more we try, and so on and so forth, until we really know that if it's not for God to take us out, we can't get out on our own. But then when we do come out, ki yitaron ha'or min ha'choshech, we value the redemption so much because it says it's in Kohelet, the preeminence of light which emerges from the dark. היינו שאי אפשר להרגיש את החושך אם אין אור לפני כן. וזה פירוש כי יתרון האור. You can't actually feel the darkness if there wasn't any light. In other words, the fact that we can actually see our darkness means that God is showing it to us. וזה פירוש כי יתרון האור. And this is what the Rabbi Ashlag says, that this is the preeminence of the light. הרגשה ראשונה של אדם יש לו אור. that the first feeling of a person is that he has light. ואז מתחיל מהרגשת החושך. And then we get the feeling of the darkness. ובלי זה לא מרגישים כל חיסרון רוחני. And without this, we don't feel any spiritual lack. אלא כל החסרונות שאדם מרגיש ומצטער רק חסרונות של תועלת עצמית ולא תועלת השם. And in fact, the actual reality is that we need a lot of God's help also to be able to find our true spiritual lack. All right? All the lacks that a person feels and is sorry about is actually the lack of our selfishness. Okay, we find lacks in our things that we want for ourselves, but we're not looking at what's the lack of how we're serving God. So in actually to be able to see the lack in our serving God, we also need God's help. וזה עניין haChodesh הזה לכם ראש חודשים, and this is the issue of this month is for you the first of the months. בא ציוו אל הקרבת הפסח. This is, in order to be able to see this, comes the offering up of the Pesach, כמו שכתוב, וככה תאכלו וכולי בחיפזון פסח הוא להשם. And in this way you shall eat the Pesach in haste. It is a Pesach for Hashem. So why is the Chodesh hazeh lechem rosh chodeshim, why is this commandment comes together with offering up the Korban Pesach? Because the first Pesach Mitzrayim was the lamb. Okay, and what was the lamb? The lamb was the idol. Okay, it's the idol of the Egyptians. But I think also from what I understand from the Zohar, that the children of Israel were also worshipping idols. Okay, and so they had to offer up, let go of the idol worship in order to open up this whole issue. Okay, now I want to learn a piece with you in the Zohar, which sort of looks at this whole idea from a different perspective. Let's change that. Oh, I don't think I did it right. I'm not sure. I might have done it right. Who knows? I'll do it again. Oh. It's disappeared. What is that? This is crazy. My ruler. Ah, right. Okay, got it now. Right, this is a piece from the Zohar. Okay, and it deals with the same aspect. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Kuf Nun Chet. Okay, can you see that there? Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak said, it's Zohar Bo. Okay? Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, לא יצטרך אורייתא למכתב אלא מהחודש הזה לכם ראש חודשים. מה טעמה? משום דשירות דזיהה הווה. ועל דא אורייתא הווה יצטרך למכתב מהכה, דהג בקודש בריך הוא יתקשה מילה. קוף נון חט. Rabbi Yitzchak said, and this is the famous quotation from Rashi, which goes to show, in my view, that Rashi certainly knew Zohar. אמר רבי יצחק, לא היה תורה צריך לכתוב, אלא מהחודש הזה לכם וכו'. The Torah did not need to be written except from this month shall be for you the beginning of the months. מה הטעם? What's the reason? משום שתחילת שליטת הלבנה. because it is the beginning of the rule of the moon. What is the moon? The moon is the Shekhinah. Okay, the sun refers to the haChodesh Baruch Hu, the Zeir Anpin, and the moon refers to the Malchut, or the Shekhinah. Now, why does the moon... What is the Rosh Chodesh? The Rosh Chodesh moon, okay? The Rosh Chodesh moon is a moon you can hardly see, all right? It's a tiny, tiny little sliver, yeah? So a Rosh Chodesh moon is a thing you can hardly see. And God said to Moses, Kazet Kadesh, like this, because Moshe couldn't understand how to Kadesh, the moon. Okay, how does the moon need to be to be the beginning of the month? Like, does the moon have to be full, or does the moon have to be at its very beginning? And God showed him with his finger like this, and when it's just beginning, okay. And what is the Levana? What is the Malchut? The quality of the Malchut is faith. Okay, that's the way the Malchut can be in holiness. Because the Malchut is the basic essence of the will to receive oneself alone. Okay, it's the will to receive. All right. But if we're going to do Malchut Shamayim, the governance of heaven, instead of just our own desires for ourselves alone, then we need to let go of our need for certainty and our need for knowing everything. And we need to move into faith. And so the new moon, okay, it symbolizes that when it's just a tiny, tiny sliver of light. Okay? All right? ועל כן הייתה תורה צריכה להתחיל לכתוב מכאן. And since החודש הזה לכם ראש חודשים, that this is the beginning of all the months, meaning that this is the beginning of the understanding of how to serve God through faith. And that's the reason why he says the Torah needs to begin to be written from here. Ki b'kodesh Baruch Hu niksha davar, because in that way we can be in affinitive form with the Holy Blessed One. Ki halevana, because the Shekhinah, the moon, he saw the Malchut, is the inner meaning of the Malchut. Shebeshleimuta mityachedet im HaKodesh Baruch Hu. And when the faith is complete, okay, she unites with HaKodesh Baruch Hu. ועל כן היה צריך התורה להתחיל מתחילת שלימות הלבנה, שהחודש הזה לכם ראש חודשים. And so therefore the Torah needs to begin from this understanding of how the Shekhinah, how the Malchut actually operates, which is through faith. And that's why it's the beginning of the whole cycle of the year, because the Malchut is the whole year. Okay, so the beginning of the whole cycle of the year is, how do I go through the year? How do I go through the cycle of connection with the Creator? I have to go through faith. And that is the inner meaning of haChodesh hazeh lechem rosh chodeshim. That this chidush, if you like, this way of being with God through faith, through giving, is the beginning of all chidushim, which is what we learned. Kuf nun tet. V'lo kashya, delo kativ zot, haChodesh hazot, דהה זה וזאת כחד מתקשרים באתר דאית בית דקה ולא כבר כחדה, לית שפחה אלא לדחורה. ועלדה ראשון הוא לכם לחודשי השנה. לחודשי השנה ודאי. אמר רבי יהודה, לכם תרי זמני למה? אמר רבי יצחק, מנהיו השתמע יתיר, כמה דכתיב, כי חלק השם עמו, התקשרותא דע לכם, ולא לשאר אמין. ולא קשה, and this isn't difficult, שלא כתוב זאת, it's not written החודש הזאת, It's written haChodesh hazeh, okay? But it says, well, why isn't it written haChodesh hazot? If we're talking about the Malchut, then the name of the Malchut, the word which is associated with the Malchut is Zot. Okay, whenever it says Zot, it means the Malchut. Okay, that's just part of the language of Kabbalah. But it's actually, I mean, it's the language of Torah, actually. It just tells you what it means. Okay, so the word Zot refers to the Malchut, because the Malchut is the vessel, and the vessel is considered as the feminine aspect. Why is it feminine? It's not that it's because the physical branch, okay, of male and female is that the male is the giver and the female is the receiver, okay? When the male gives his seed to the female who receives it, okay? So the physical branch comes from the spiritual roots, and the spiritual root of the is when it says zachar, male, it means giving, and when it says female, it means receiving. All right. So the name of the Vana, the name of the Malchut, is Zot, and this is because Zeh and Zot mitkashrim yachad. So we have the Zerampin and the Malchut joined together, or haChodesh Baruch Hu and Yisrael joined together. So in order really to, have the children of Israel come out of Egypt, all right, there has to be this togetherness, this unity, okay? And they did. They came out in faith. So when there is both the giver and the receiver together, then the praise is for the male. Why? Because male, not meaning male, it means the giver. Okay, because he's the one, that's that aspect with the light. There was another thing in the chat. Yes, like Zot Hanukkah. Does that mean Zot Hanukkah represents Malchut? Probably it does. That's Tzipporah. Yes. Yes, that's right. ועל כן אומר ראשון הוא לכם ראש לחודשי השנה. And therefore it needs to be the first of the months of the year, לחודשי השנה ודאי, for the months of the year for sure, ללמד שסובב על המלכות הנקראת שנה, because this is talking about the Malchut, because the Malchut is the governance, okay, how we govern ourselves, how we try to come to God throughout the whole year. Okay, we go through Parashat Shavua every day. We have tefillot, and we go. Then we have the Parashat Shavua. Then we have the Chagim. Okay, and we go through the months of the year. And as we go through the months of the year, we have the different ways of the connection with the Creator. So with the Malchut is doing coming work in faith. But it's actually in the language, it just gives the what is important, and the importance is the light, and the light it's just the language here. Amar Rabbi Yehuda lachem shnei pamim lama. It's written haChodesh hazeh lachem rosh rishon hu lachem. This month is for you, the first, okay, for you. Why does it say it twice? Amar Rabbi Yitzchak מהם, מכפילות לכם נשמע יותר שהוא רק לישראל. Because Rabbi Yitzchak says, because it says for you twice, it means only Israel, ולא לשאר העמים, and not for other nations. But when we're talking about Israel and the other nations, we're really talking about the relationship between ourselves, our soul, actually, which is Yisrael, the aspect of the soul within, and the other nations are the wills to receive for ourselves alone. So he says it's the soul here that's really involved, okay? The aspect of giving, Yashar El, okay? So haChodesh hazeh Rosh Chodeshim means this is the way that we need to function, if we're going to be functioning with the connection with God, with Yisrael within us, the Yashar El, then that is through faith. Whereas the other aspects of ourselves are not interested in faith. They want to receive. Okay? כמו שכתוב, כי החלק השם עמו, the portion of God is with him. התקשרות הזאת של haChodesh, this connection of the month, which is the chidush, this new aspect of faith, hu lachem is for you, the aspect is the expression of the soul, v'lo l'sha'amim, and it's not an expression of our wills to receive for ourselves alone, which here is called the other nations. Oh, okay, there we go. We finished that a little bit, just in time.
Thank you, Yedida. Sorry I was late.
That's fine. I'm glad you came.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you, thank
lovely.
you.
Yeah.
Shabbat Shalom and Chodesh Tov.
Shabbat Shalom and Chodesh
Shabbat
Tov.
Shalom, Kodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov and
Right.
Chidush Tov. A new chidush.
And you
Yeah.
Laila Tov, everyone.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, great.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much
Shalom.
again,
Thank
Yadida.
you.
Shabbat Shalom. Bye.
Yedida,
Yes.
I was in a class the other day and I had a thought, and I don't know if it's really a valid thought or not, but I wanted to pass it by you. They said they were asking us why that was the first mitzvah and why that mitzvah is significant. Of this should be the first month for you. And I was thinking maybe that's a hint that we are going to be eternal. If we have to keep track of the time, that means we're going to persist and prevail and not fade away in the desert or anywhere else. Do you think that has something to do? Do you think God was trying to tell us you're going to be last a long, long time, and that's why you have to keep track of time? Or do you think it was another reason?
I think it's very fascinating that Pesach Mitzrayim, that the rules of Pesach were given to the children of Israel whilst they were still in Egypt. I think that means that they were given so much hope by that. When you're still trapped in your own will to receive yourself alone, and you're given the mitzvot as if you're going to get out, I mean, like with the assurance that, you know, that here, this is what you do when you get out kind of thing, that gives you so much assurance you are going to get out. So they actually ate the first Pesach, the first Korban Pesach, and this first mitzvah was given to them right when they were still sunk in their 49th level of uncleanness. And I think there is an aspect here, what you're hinting at, is that, yes, by the fact that they're given this particular mitzvah, it's telling them, however sunk you are in your will to receive for yourself alone, you are going to get out of it. Yes. It's a hopeful mitzvah, this one. Okay, Tzipora, I think I don't know, are you there? I think she's gone. Hello? Oh, did you get that?
I got your message. I heard it. My screen seemed to shift off, and I couldn't tap to speak.
Okay. That's okay. Did that
Okay.
answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It's a very hopeful sign to get that mitzvah.
Yes,
He
it
wants
is.
us to do that.
It
Yeah.
is. It's a very hopeful sign. Beautiful. All right. Okay. Have a lovely, lovely Shabbat.
And to you as well.
Thank
Will
you.
you be in Jerusalem or in Sfat for Seder?
I'm staying in Sfat mostly now. Yes.
Great. Okay. Maybe I will be able to contact you. I have a Seder. I'm thinking of Pesach, so I'll talk to you later about it.
Okay, all right. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.